Two aspects of the question. Let me dispose of the first one involving sports, the fairness of allowing biological males to compete against females in sports. The second is a more complicated one, whether children should be subjected to irreversible transgender surgical or chemical procedures at all. But Ms. Scanlon, can you tell me if a female claiming to be a male has ever dominated in men's sports?
No, and actually in my league, there isn't two instances where a female athlete transitioned to the men's side.
So this is very much a one-way street.
Yes.
It's biological males competing against women dominate those sports. There's not a case of a biological female going transgender and dominating a male sport. Am I correct?
Yep, you're correct. And it's obvious that that would be the case because
Well, if that's the case, then simply this is an attack on the integrity of women's sports. And I wonder why my Democratic colleagues, who often posture as feminists, can't see this plain truth. Ms. Scanlon, what would be wrong with simply allowing transgender men and women to compete in their own sports competitions while we preserve the fairness of women's sports?
Yeah, I believe all individuals should have a right to play sports. I think sex-based categories make the most sense.
So transgender males should be allowed to compete with other transgender males in their own sports category. Nobody's got a problem with that, I think.
Yeah, if that's what governing bodies decide is the fair solution, then I'm for that. I believe that female spaces should be protected in female sports teams.
Now the more weighty question is who should make the decision to subject a child to such a procedure on behalf of that child?
Nobody.
Well, long before governments existed, there were mothers and fathers who had children. So the family is the most fundamental governing unit. It's established by nature itself. So I think it therefore follows that parents have a fundamental natural right to raise their children according to their own best judgment. It can't be absolute, of course. You can't kill them. You have to feed them and clothe them and shelter them. And society has a role to play in being sure that you do. But it's intrusions into the decisions of parents over the raising of their children. That needs to be very cautious, very limited, and very humble. Now, the ranking member in her opening statement makes this point, once you strip away all of the partisan rhetoric, and it seems to me that there are two issues here. The first is the effort in states like California to bypass parents' judgment and subject their children to transgender procedures against the parents' judgment, or even to hide this from the parents. That's going on in California right now. So I want to be sure I understood the subcommittee's ranking member correctly. It sounded like she, too, opposes government replacing parents' judgment over the decision on transgender procedures for their children. Am I correct on that?
That's you, Ms. Scanlon. Yeah.
Am I correct on that? I yield to the gentlelady to answer.
I'm sorry, I was...
It sounded like you oppose government replacing parents' judgment over the decision of transgender procedures on their children. Am I correct on that?
What I said was that parents have the ultimate right to make the decisions concerning appropriate medical care for their children.
I think we're in agreement. We can take that off the table. Both parties oppose the government, any government, making decisions over whether a child will be subjected to transgender procedures contrary to the wishes of the parents. Do I understand that correctly?
I believe that's generally the legal standard.
Okay,
yes.
that's great. Then we need
Dispute
to
is
take
over what is appropriate, apparently.
If both parties support a law that forbids performing these transgender procedures on a minor without the full and informed consent of the parents, then, Mr. Chairman, I believe we should advance such a bill right away. I think that would address the fears that I hear from a lot of parents that their desire to protect their child is at risk from various state governments like California who are trying to usurp that decision. We have complete agreement on that.
I think you're mischaracterizing the complete agreement.
Well, I thought we had just arrived at that agreement until it comes down to actually doing it, and then you seem to have a change of heart. But Mr. Chairman, let's put that to the test. I see I'm out of time, but I think the sooner we move that, the better.